we're going to rely on technology a bit here because we have Dominik Beier, who's the CEO of Interwetten, dialing in from Vienna live via Skype. So I'm hoping, all being well, there he is. Dominik, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
This is like presenting Eurovision Song Contest. It's great. Okay, Dominik, I'm going to hand over to you. You have a presentation for the audience here. Thank you very much for joining us. Sorry you couldn't make it here in person, but I'm sure you'll be here next year. And we will save a bit of time for questions at the end for you from the audience. Okay?
Perfect. Yeah, that's fine.
Over to you.
All right. Thank you for the introduction and welcome everyone. Unfortunately, I cannot be with you today, which is a pity. But the worst thing is actually that I'm gonna miss lunch. So I hope you're gonna enjoy that without me. I tried to make it as quick as possible because I think you're a bit behind schedule. So yeah, the idea was of today's presentation to give you a quick overview on what the state of the market is, where we see Spain, what the upcoming challenges are, and I'm gonna give you some insights on that. Maybe we can start with the first slide, or the next slide in this case. To give you a bit of a background of Interwetten, we are one of the oldest companies in the industry. We're going to turn 30 next year, which is actually 2 years older than I am personally. So quite an old company with quite a young CEO. We are around about 140 employees with 90 million GGR per year. We have different markets which we operate in, such as Austria, Germany, Spain, Sweden, Greece, and gonna move into new markets soon. So a lot of history, a lot of background, a lot of know-how within Interwetten, which gives you, which I think gives us a good position to evaluate on the Spanish market now. Maybe we can move on with the slide, if that works. Yeah, so a few numbers, just moving on, 1.8 million registered clients, which is obviously mainly due to the fact that we've been operating for almost 30 years now, almost by now 2 billion betting and gaming turnover, 13 million placed bets per year. So yeah, a lot of different offers which we have obviously, but that's just an introduction. Maybe you can move on with the slides, please. Move on, please. Yeah, so the core markets, I've mentioned that, and now jumping into the details of the Spanish market. In general, we have to mention that Spain is, as we think, has a very good regulation compared to other territories, at least we operate in. For example, Germany and Austria, which are one of our core markets as well, are one of the only markets which are not regulated yet. So we still operate with the Maltese license, and regulation discussions are going on for many years. Unfortunately, there's no proper local regulation yet. So in general, Spain does offer a very safe environment for the operators and also for the customers. Responsible gaming is a big issue, and I think the Spanish regulation does a very good job on that. Obviously, we have to adapt new products so we stay competitive in the market. We have to further promote responsible gaming, which I think the whole industry is committed to at the moment. And in the end, what the good regulation led to, obviously, is a very small black market, which is good for every operator, for every customer. I think that's the goal of a regulated market. So bottom line is Spain has a great environment, has a great market, has a good regulation. Although some of you might be complaining about it, but it's way better than it is from the other markets we're operating in. Next slide, please. Yeah, we also see that the Spanish market in general is growing. These numbers are public knowledge, so I think it's probably nothing new to you. But we still see a growth of around about 20 to 25% per year, mainly coming out of casino at the moment. But sports betting is also growing, especially in the years of European Championships or World Championships. So it is We also see a big shift towards mobile, obviously. So desktop gets more and more unimportant. So I think the better your mobile product is, the better your offers are, the more competitive and successful you will be in the Spanish market. And again, it is growing constantly, between 20 and 30% per year, the online part of the industry, which gives us confidence that we will have a good market in the future. Moving to the next slide, please. The only, let's say, fear, or obviously there are some threats as well for the industry in Spain. As you probably know, the bad publicity at the moment of the industry. There is a constant attack on betting operators, especially on retail, which we think is not very fair, because it is a very good regulation which there is in Spain, and we need to, I think, further show and emphasize on the advantages of the regulated market, which is obviously on one side the tax revenues, but also the responsible gaming revenues, or not revenues, sorry, the responsible gaming things and topics. So I think the bad publicity is not fair and is not right at the moment, and we as an industry need to make everyone aware, to show everyone that we are having a very good regulation in Spain, and we shouldn't change much in order to stay competitive with the regulation. Okay, next slide, please. As everyone knows, in Spain, there have been some elections going on over the past years, and now it seems to finally have a new government, where I think the opinions on the regulation are a bit different from party to party. So we have some danger or threats here when it comes to an increase of tax. Yeah, I hope that in the end, the regulators and the government see that the regulation you have at the moment is good, competitive, and hopefully they will not change much. Obviously, we have to constantly adapt. We live in the age of digitalization and internet, so there are a lot of changes constantly, but I think that's something which we can handle together as operators and regulators in a good way. Next slide, please. Which already brings me to the last point, as the market, which is a very good sign from my point of view, is attractive. We see, or we know that there are a lot of new market entrants, which is actually what you want to attract with the proper regulation. So we see a big competition coming up for retail as well as online operators. There are around about 30 new companies moving into Spain, and also at the same time, if there will be new advertising regulations, which are being discussed currently, as I'm sure you're aware of, obviously this will make it harder for new market entrants. Now you can say, okay, for us as an established operator, we've been in Spain for many years, and have been tied to sponsors or main sponsors of Sevilla, of Espanyol, Barcelona, currently Sporting Gijón. Might make things easier for us, but actually looking at it from a bigger economical point of view, you want to make it competitive and attractive, and banning advertising or making it restricting it very heavily would potentially lead that there will not be as many market entrants. And again, this in the end, it's all about competitiveness, and it's about media spendings, marketing spending, sponsorship spendings, which you would definitely not attract with higher taxes or with advertising, even stronger advertising restrictions. Yeah, this is my quick point of view of the Spanish market. So again, as I mentioned, I think there are some threats at the moment with the new government, but overall it's a very well-regulated market. You can really focus on communication. You can focus on the product rather than dealing with legal cases all the time. So yeah, thanks to the Spanish regulators, you've done a great job so far, and hopefully we, as operators plus regulators, find a good way to do that in the future as well. Thank you.
Dominik, given your the sponsorships you do in Spain and the sort of the spectre of changes, is he still there? Is he gone?
Yes. Yeah, I'm still there.
Are you planning ahead for or coming up with strategies or contingency plans for markets like Spain where things might change drastically when it comes to marketing and your traditional routes to acquiring customers?
I mean, as we are for quite a while in the industry, I think we're quite used to being, let's say, flexible on strategies because that's simply what you have to be with constant changes in legislation. Of course, it would be much nicer if you have planning stability. So if we would know what we are allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do, we obviously want to stick to the rules as operators. I think that's for most of the operators the case. So we would be happy to have at least quick decision on what we're allowed to do or not in order to stick and comply with the regulation. But again, I think the way it is set up at the moment it's good. And the very big fear or harm I see is for the media industry. If you restrict advertising too much, they will lose a big strain of their revenues, and also for the clubs, for the leagues, for the rights holders. If we're not allowed, obviously, to sponsor them or to do advertising, the demand of the market will still be there. So I doubt that the demand or the market growth will be less. I think that's going to remain more or less the same if we do advertising or not, because that's what we've seen in other countries. So I think that what happens is that you only harm your own marketing and media industry by having too strict advertising regulations.
Thank you. Has anyone got any questions for Dominik before we wrap up? Okay, Dominik, I know you've got to get to the airport, so unfortunately we've got your colleague Alex, who's going to be talking about new product development and innovation in a session coming up, so he can take over the baton from you. But thank you so much for joining us, Dominik, and we'll see you next year.
Thanks for the time. See you next year. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.